It was just another Tuesday morning when I stepped outside to take out the trash. Nothing unusual, nothing dramatic. Then my neighbor stopped me. His face was pale, his voice low. "Thomas, I don't know how to say this, but you deserve to know. Your wife and your son aren't being honest with you." That single sentence changed how I looked at everything. What I chose to do next was quiet, careful, and intentional. Because when the answers finally appeared, they didn't just hurt. They forced me to become someone I never planned to be. Thank you so much for being here with me. If this opening already caught your attention, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel and reading every single reply. Just a quick note before we continue. This story includes some fictionalized elements added for storytelling and reflection. Names and settings may be altered, but the message behind it is meant to be meaningful and worth thinking about. Now, let's get into the story. That Tuesday morning, the trash bag felt strangely heavier in my hand. February 12th, 2024, exactly 7 in the morning. I stepped onto my driveway in Desert Ridge, Scottsdale, and the Arizona winter greeted me with its familiar contradiction. Cool enough to wake you up, but not cold enough to justify a jacket. 65 degrees, the kind of air that clears your head faster than caffeine ever could. The neighborhood was still half asleep. No cars moving, no voices, just the distant outline of the Sonoran Desert beyond the houses' saguaros. Standing tall against rocky hills as the rising sun painted everything in soft gold. I'd lived here for 26 years, and mornings like this had always felt grounding, predictable, safe. I was halfway to the trash bins when I noticed Frank Wilson. He stood near the curb, motionless. Frank lived 3 houses down. 67 years old, retired postal worker, widowed 2 years earlier after losing Linda to breast cancer. The kind of man who trimmed his lawn like clockwork and waved every time you drove past. Over the years, we'd shared tools, beers, and small talk at block parties. Good neighbor, solid guy. But this morning, he wasn't gardening. He wasn't walking. He was waiting. "Morning, Frank," I called, lifting the trash bag toward the recycling bin. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at me with an expression that made my stomach tighten before a single word was spoken. "Something uneasy, something heavy, Thomas," he said at last, stepping closer. His eyes flicked toward my house, then back to me. "We need to talk man to man." I lowered the trash bag to the ground. Slowly. "Everything all right?" Frank removed his Arizona Cardinals cap, the same one he wore every day, and turned it over in his hands. I'd known him for 15 years. I'd never seen him hesitate like this, not even at Linda's funeral. "There's been someone coming by your place," he said quietly. "When you're away on your work trips?" The air suddenly felt much colder. "What do you mean, someone?" "A man." Frank's jaw tightened. I first noticed him maybe 6 months ago. Thought he was family or a contractor, but then it kept happening. Same routine every time. Arrives around 10 at night. Leaves just before 6 in the morning. Only on the nights you're gone. My mouth went dry. Frank Black Audi, a 7. He continued. Newer model. He's got his own key. Thomas walks in like it's his house. Tall guy, gray hair, expensive suit, looks like money. The world shifted beneath my feet. I've never been a violent man, but in that moment, something dark surged through me. I wanted to hit something, anything, just to ground myself. Instead, I stood there, trash bag forgotten, trying to make sense of words that refused to fit together. How many times I asked. My voice sounded distant, unfamiliar. Frank looked down at his cap. I stopped counting after 12. Could be more. I'm sorry. I should have said something earlier. I kept thinking I might be mistaken, that there had to be a harmless explanation. No. I raised a hand. You're telling me now. That's what matters. He let out a breath relief visible in his shoulders. If you need anything, I appreciate it. My hands were shaking as I picked up the trash bag. Really? We stood there in silence for a moment. Two middle-aged men in a quiet Scottsdale subdivision. One of us fully aware that a few sentences had just cracked the other's life wide open. Take care of yourself, Frank said, placing his cap back on. I watched him walk home before turning toward my own house. A 2-story Spanish colonial we'd bought in 1998. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, desert landscaping, recently appraised at around $780,000. Melissa had chosen everything. The terracotta roof, the wooden ceiling beams, the small fountain in the backyard, our home. Inside, the smell of fresh coffee wrapped around me instantly. Melissa stood at the counter with her back turned, pouring coffee into her favorite mug, the one Austin had given her years ago that read, "World's Best Mom." She wore her blue silk robe, her dark hair still damp from the shower. 26 years. I knew that robe. I knew the way she held her cup, the quiet sounds she made in the morning, the way she checked her phone while the coffee brewed. I thought I knew her. "You were out there a while," she said without turning around. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," I replied. The lie tasted metallic. "Just talking with Frank." Austin sat at the table, 26 years old, eyes locked on his phone. Same posture as always. He'd been living with us since dropping out of Arizona State 4 years earlier. No steady job, no clear direction. We'd supported him, believed in him, waited. He didn't look up. The scene was painfully ordinary. Melissa sipping coffee, Austin scrolling, morning news murmuring from the living room, lavender soap mixing with the dark Colombian roast I bought in bulk every month. Normal. Except it wasn't. Not anymore. I sat across from Austin, my coffee cup trembling slightly in my hands, forced myself to take a sip, to breathe evenly, to look at my wife and son like nothing inside me had just fractured. A memory surfaced uninvited our wedding day, September 1998, a small chapel in Paradise Valley, Melissa in white-laced tears in her eyes as she held my hands. "I will love you forever." I'd believed her, built everything on that promise. Now that memory felt like it belonged to someone else. "You okay, Dad?" Austin glanced up briefly. "You look off." "Just tired," I said. "Long week." Melissa turned, studying me with the same brown eyes I'd woken up beside for over 2 decades. "You're heading to Houston tomorrow, right?" Houston. Another trip, another night away, another chance for someone else to unlock my front door. "Yeah," I said. "Houston?" She smiled. The same smile that had first pulled me in years ago. The one I'd trusted without question. "You work too hard," she said gently. I looked down at my hands. The hands that had held my newborn son, built a career, paid for this house, created a life. They were shaking. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Maybe I do." Austin went back to his phone. Melissa returned to her coffee. The news continued droning on like nothing had changed. But sitting there at my kitchen table inside my own home, I understood something with absolute clarity. Nothing would ever feel normal again. The coffee had gone cold in my cup, but I hadn't moved to refill it. I sat there at that kitchen table watching Melissa finish her coffee and Austin scroll through his phone. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Like a stage set where the actors were waiting for their cue. I needed to test them. Needed to see if Frank had been wrong. If maybe I was overreacting. Maybe there was some reasonable explanation. Maybe no. I had to know. You know, I said casually, setting down my mug. Frank said something really odd this morning when I was taking out the trash. The change was immediate. Melissa's fingers tightened around her coffee cup. I watched her knuckles turn white against the ceramic. Austin's fork stopped midair, suspended between his plate and his mouth with a piece of scrambled egg that never completed its journey. Just for a second, maybe two. But I saw it. The panic, the coordination. Then they recovered. Oh. Melissa's voice was light, but her smile looked painted on. What did Frank say? I kept my tone casual, curious. He mentioned seeing some unusual activity at our house when I'm traveling for work, a car coming late at night. Melissa laughed. Too quickly, too brightly. Thomas, honey. She set her cup down with deliberate care. Frank is 67 years old. He's been confused ever since Linda died 2 years ago. You know how elderly people can get. Their minds start playing tricks on them. Yeah, Dad. Austin jumped in without missing a beat. That old guy is pretty out of it. He probably saw someone visiting a different house and got confused about which one. You know how dark it gets at night around here. I watched them. Really watched them. The way they didn't quite meet my eyes. The way Melissa's hand trembled slightly as she reached for her tablet. The way Austin's jaw was clenched just a fraction too tight. And the way they glanced at each other just once. Just for a heartbeat. But I caught it. That look between them coordinated, practiced like players on a team checking their positions. 26 years of marriage teaches you to read your spouse. 26 years of being a father teaches you when your son is lying. They were both lying. You're probably right, I said slowly, nodding as if considering it. Frank has seemed a bit off lately. I shouldn't read too much into it. The relief that washed over their faces was almost comical. Melissa's shoulders dropped. Austin's grip on his fork relaxed. They thought I'd bought it. Thought I was satisfied with their explanation. Austin seized the moment. Hey, Dad. Speaking of which? He set his fork down, adopting that sheepish expression he'd perfected as a teenager when asking for money. Could you transfer me an extra $1,500 this month? I've got some unexpected expenses. I looked at my son, 26 years old, living in my house, eating my food, and asking for more money while sitting across from me, lying to my face. What kind of expenses? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. Just, stuff. He shrugged, not meeting my eyes. We saw some clothes for job interviews. I owe a couple of friends some money. Nothing major, just need a little help. Melissa backed him up immediately. Our son needs support, Thomas. You know how difficult things are for young people these days. The job market is terrible. He's trying his best. I let the silence stretch for just a moment, long enough for them to wonder if I was going to push back. Long enough to see the worry creep back into Austin's expression. Then I nodded. Sure, I'll transfer it tonight. The relief was instant, visible. Austin actually smiled, the first genuine expression I'd seen from him all morning. Thanks, Dad. You're the best. Melissa reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You're a good father, Thomas. Austin is lucky to have you. Her hand felt cold. Or maybe mine was. I couldn't tell anymore. I should get ready for work. I said, standing. My legs felt steadier than I expected. Maybe shock has its benefits. She, don't forget you're leaving for Houston tomorrow. Melissa reminded me already, turning back to her tablet. How could I forget? I said Houston, another business trip. Another night away from home. Another opportunity for someone with a black Audi and a key to walk through my front door. I walked out of the kitchen, my footsteps echoing on the tile floor. But instead of heading downstairs to our bedroom, we'd converted the main floor guest room into our master suite 3 years ago for convenience. I stopped at the base of the stairs leading up to the second floor. There was a spot on the upper landing just around the corner where the acoustics of the house did something strange. Sound carried up from the kitchen perfectly, like the house itself was designed to betray secrets. I discovered it years ago, back when Austin was in high school, and we'd wanted to make sure he wasn't getting into trouble with his friends. Funny how these architectural quirks come back to haunt you. I climbed the stairs slowly, quietly, testing each step to avoid the creaks I'd memorized over 2 decades. The 3rd step from the top, the 7th from the bottom. I knew which ones to avoid. At the top, I pressed my back against the wall, just out of sight, and waited. It didn't take long. The upper landing was silent, except for the sound of my own breathing. I pressed my back against the wall, every muscle tensed, waiting. Then their voices drifted up from the kitchen below, low, urgent, conspiratorial. Austin, this is serious. Melissa's whisper carried perfectly through the architecture of our home. If your father installs cameras, Mom, relax. Austin cut her off. Dad's clueless. He doesn't suspect anything. He's been traveling for work for years and never noticed a thing. My hand found the wall for support. My legs felt like they might give out beneath me. You need to tell Gregory to be more careful, Melissa continued. What Frank saw. I texted him last night already. Austin's voice held an edge of irritation. He said not to worry. He called, Dad, the perfect fool who only thinks about work. The perfect fool. Those words hit me like physical blows. I had to bite down on my tongue to keep from making a sound. Tasted copper blood. My own blood from my own teeth in my own mouth, while my wife and son discussed how stupid I was. Besides, Austin went on, he still owes me money, $750 for this month, plus the extra $500 he promised last week. $750 every month. My son was being paid to keep quiet about my wife's affair. He'll pay, Melissa said. Her voice was matter-of-fact businesslike. He always does. Just make sure your father stays blind to it. Gregory. They were talking about Gregory Donovan. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Gregory Donovan, my boss for the past 8 years. 6'2" gray hair, always impeccably dressed in suits that cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Drove a black Audi A7, the exact car Frank had described. Gregory controlled my project schedule. He assigned my business trips. He knew exactly when I'd be out of town, exactly how long I'd be gone, exactly when the house would be empty, except for my wife. My wife and her key-holding lover. The nausea hit me hard. I pressed one hand against my mouth, swallowing it down, forcing myself to stay silent, to keep listening. I have to go, Austin said. Meeting some friends. Be careful with that money, Melissa warned. Don't blow it all in one place. I heard movement, chairs scraping. The conversation was ending. I forced myself to move, forced my legs to work to carry me down the stairs with measured, normal steps. One foot in front of the other. Don't run, don't stumble. Act natural. By the time I reached the bottom, Austin was heading toward the garage phone already back in his hand. He didn't even glance my way. Melissa was rinsing her coffee cup at the sink, humming softly. Some song from the radio. She looked so peaceful, so content. "I'm heading to work," I said. My voice came out steady, even completely at odds with the chaos screaming through my head. "Have a good day, honey." She smiled at me over her shoulder. That same smile I'd woken up to for 26 years. "Don't forget to pack for Houston tonight." "I won't." I grabbed my keys from the hook by the garage door, the same hook where they'd hung for 2 decades. The same keys that opened the same car parked in the same driveway of the same house where my wife was sleeping with my boss, while my son took payment for his silence. "Love you," Melissa called after me. The words made my stomach turn, but I said them back anyway, because that's what we did. That's what we'd always done. "Love you too." I walked through the garage, past Austin's old bike that hadn't been ridden in years, past the storage bins full of Christmas decorations, past the tools I'd organized so carefully last summer, and got into my truck. A Ford F-55 years old, perfectly maintained. A sensible vehicle for a sensible man who went to work every day and provided for his family and never suspected a thing. The perfect fool. I closed the door, put the keys in the ignition, and sat there. The garage door was still open. I could see our street through the opening, the Johnson's house across the way, the Rodriguez's place next door, Frank's house, 3 doors down, where a 67-year-old widower had tried to warn me that my life was a lie. 3 minutes passed, maybe longer. I don't know. Time felt strange, like it was moving too fast and too slow simultaneously. My hands were shaking. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white the same way Melissa's had when I'd mentioned Frank's warning. The same physical tell that had given her away. Gregory Donovan, the man who'd hired me, mentored me, sent me congratulations cards when I finished big projects, came to our house for dinner parties where Melissa had laughed at his jokes and poured his wine, and smiled that smile that I'd thought was just her being a good hostess. How long? How many of those business trips? How many nights had I been in Houston or Denver or Phoenix while Gregory Donovan was in my house, in my bed with my wife and Austin? My son, 26 years old, the kid I'd taught to ride a bike, to throw a baseball, to change a tire. The boy who'd cried when his dog died and hugged me so tight on his first day of school. That same person was upstairs right now, probably texting Gregory about how well he'd deflected my suspicions at breakfast. $750 a month. I did the math automatically. Engineer's habit. If this had been going on for 6 months, Frank said he'd noticed it that long ago, that was $4,500. If it was longer, 10 months would be $7,500. A year would be $9,000 that my son had been paid to lie to my face. The garage smelled like oil and concrete and the lavender detergent Melissa used on our towels. Normal smells, the smell of home. Except it wasn't home anymore. Maybe it never had been. I turned the key. The engine started with its familiar rumble. I put the truck in reverse and backed out of the driveway with the same careful movements I'd made thousands of times before. But as I drove away from that house, that beautiful Spanish colonial in Desert Ridge with its terracotta tiles and desert landscaping and fountain in the backyard, I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The perfect fool was done being fooled. Wednesday morning, February 14th, 2024, Valentine's Day. I made coffee and waited for Melissa to come downstairs. When she did, at 7:30, already dressed, smelling like lavender soap, I set my trap. "Happy Valentine's Day," she said, kissing my cheek. The gesture made my skin crawl, but I smiled back. Happy Valentine's Day. Austin wandered in 15 minutes later, heading straight for the cereal cabinet. Hey, I said casually, pouring myself more coffee. I called your mother last night, she mentioned, feeling under the weather. Maybe you two should visit her today. Keep her company. Melissa paused mid-pour with the coffee pot. Today it's Valentine's Day. I kept my expression concerned, caring the devoted son-in-law. That's exactly why she might be lonely. Your dad's been gone 3 years now. She's probably missing him. It wasn't entirely a lie. I had called Sarah earlier that morning at 6:15 while Melissa was in the shower. Told her I was planning a surprise for Valentine's Day and needed Melissa out of the house for the afternoon. Sarah, who'd always liked me, who'd cried at our wedding, had agreed immediately to play along. You're such a thoughtful son-in-law, she'd said. Melissa is lucky to have you. If only she knew. Melissa hesitated, clearly torn. I suppose we could go after lunch around 2. That would be perfect, I said. Perfect for me anyway. 1:58 p.m. I stood at the living room window watching Melissa's Honda CR-V back out of the driveway. Austin in the passenger seat glued to his phone. Heading toward Tempe, 15 minutes away to Sarah's retirement community. My phone buzzed. Arriving in 5 minutes, 2:05 p.m. A white van pulled up to my curb. Tech Secure Systems in blue letters on the side. Professional discreet. 2 men got out. The older one, maybe 40, Hispanic, neat beard, headed straight for my front door. The younger guy followed, carrying equipment cases. I opened the door before they could knock. Mr. Thornton. The older man extended his hand. Roberto Sanchez. This is my associate, Marcus. Let's get you protected. Protected? That was one way to put it. I led them inside through the living room Melissa had decorated so carefully, past the kitchen where we'd eaten 1,000 family meals, up the stairs to the master bedroom where I'd slept next to my wife for 26 years. Show me where you need coverage, Roberto said, pulling out a tablet. I walked them through it systematically, like an engineering project. Living room. I need to see the front door and the main seating area. Roberto nodded. Assessing angles. Smoke detector. Perfect placement. Completely hidden. Kitchen. Need to see the table and counter space. Wall clock. We've got one that matches your style. Upstairs hallway. Monitor. Who goes up and down? Electrical outlet. Motion activated. We stopped at the master bedroom doorway. I had to force myself to walk in to point at the bed Melissa and I shared here. My voice came out rougher than intended. I need to see everything. Roberto's expression didn't change. No judgment, no pity, just professional assessment. We'll replace your alarm clock with an identical model. Built-in camera, perfect angle. Your wife won't notice the difference. The installation took 2 hours and 40 minutes. I watched them work with strange detachment, like I was watching someone else's life. Some other man having cameras hidden in his own home because his wife was sleeping with his boss and his son was being paid to keep quiet about it. Roberto worked efficiently, explaining each step. Marcus handled the wiring, making everything invisible. They were professionals. How many other desperate husbands had stood exactly where I was standing? At 4:45 p.m., Roberto pulled out his phone. Download this Vigil Pro. I'm adding your devices now. I watched the app install. 4 camera feeds appeared on my screen. Crystal clear 4K resolution. 4 different angles of my house. My home, my evidence collection system. See? Roberto demonstrated. Tap any stream to expand. Swipe to zoom. This icon activates audio. Very sensitive. Picks up whispers from across the room. Everything records automatically to encrypted cloud storage. 60-day retention. You can download clips anytime. I tested it. Watched myself on the bedroom feed standing there with Roberto and Marcus. The angle was perfect. You could see the entire bed, the nightstands, the door, everything I didn't want to see, but needed to document. "Payment?" Roberto asked. I pulled out my phone, transferred $4,500 via Zelle. Money I'd moved from our joint account into my personal account 2 days ago. Money Melissa hadn't asked about because she trusted me to handle our finances. The irony was suffocating. Roberto and Marcus finished packing up at 5:20 p.m. The house looked exactly the same. Nothing suspicious, nothing out of place. At the door, Roberto handed me his business card. "If you need anything," Mr. Thornton called me directly. And he paused. "I'm sorry. Whatever's happening, I'm sorry you're going through it." I nodded. Couldn't speak, shook his hand, watched them drive away. Then I stood in my living room alone and pulled up Vigil Pro. 4 feeds, 4 angles, 4 ways to watch my life fall apart in real time. 5:45 p.m. Melissa's CR-V pulled into the driveway. I pocketed my phone and arranged my face into something resembling normal. "We're back," Melissa called out, coming through the front door. She walked right past the smoke detector camera. Didn't notice a thing. "Mom's fine, just a little tired. Nothing to worry about." Austin headed straight for the kitchen, grabbed chips from the pantry, stood directly under the wall clock camera, completely oblivious. Melissa came up behind me, wrapped her arms around my waist. "Thank you for thinking of my mom. That was really sweet." "Of course," I said. That evening, we went through the Valentine's Day motions. Melissa had made reservations at our favorite Italian place in Old Town Scottsdale. We sat across from each other, drinking wine, eating pasta. To anyone watching, we looked like a happy couple celebrating 26 years of marriage. My phone buzzed periodically with Vigil Pro alerts. Motion detected, home system active, everything recording. Back home at 10 p.m. Melissa changed into the red nightgown she'd bought for the occasion. We lay down in our bed, the one we'd picked out together 12 years ago from that furniture store in Phoenix. The alarm clock on the nightstand looked exactly the same as always. Same red digital numbers, same plastic casing, same position, except now it was recording everything. Melissa kissed my cheek. "Happy Valentine's Day, honey. I love you." "Love you too," I said automatically. She fell asleep within minutes. I lay there staring at the ceiling, hyper-aware of the camera 6 feet away, recording us, recording her telling me she loved me while planning to meet Gregory the next time I left town. Tomorrow morning, I'd board a plane to Houston. 4 days, maybe 5, Gregory had said. 4 days for them to use my house while I collected evidence. My phone was under my pillow. I pulled it out, carefully. Checked Vigil Pro. All 4 cameras active, motion detection enabled, cloud backup running. Everything was ready. By this time tomorrow night, I'd have everything I needed to destroy them all. Thursday morning, February 15th, 2024. My suitcase sat packed by the front door. Melissa was making eggs and coffee in the kitchen, playing the devoted wife. She hummed softly some song from the radio, moving around in her blue bathrobe. Through the window, the Arizona sun was just starting to burn off the morning chill. 68 degrees already. Going to be a beautiful day for them anyway. "You sure you have everything?" she asked, sliding a plate of scrambled eggs toward me. "Phone charger, laptop. Those project files Gregory wanted you to review. Got it all?" I forced myself to eat. The eggs tasted like nothing, like I was chewing cardboard. But I kept my face neutral. Kept the fork moving from plate to mouth like everything was normal. My suitcase wasn't just for show. I'd actually packed it last night. 3 days worth of clothes, toiletries, my work laptop, charging cables, even those project files Melissa had just mentioned. Had to make it convincing. Had to make them believe I was really leaving for Houston, that I'd be 1,000 miles away for the next 4 days while they had the house to themselves. Houston project, I said, taking a sip of coffee. 3, maybe 4 days, depending on how the site inspection goes. I'll call when I land at Bush Intercontinental. Melissa came around the counter and kissed my cheek. The gesture felt mechanical now, hollow, like she was going through the motions of being a wife, checking off boxes on some invisible to-do list. Fake concern, fake affection, fake everything. Travel safe, honey. We'll miss you so much. We like she and Austin were a team, which I guess they were. Austin waved from the living room couch, eyes barely leaving his phone screen. Bring back some Texas barbecue, Dad, that place near the airport you went to last time. I looked at my son, 26 years old, sitting on the couch I'd bought in the house I paid for, eating food I provided, getting paid $750 a month to lie to my face. Will do, I said. I watched them both carefully over the rim of my coffee mug, the barely concealed relief on their faces. The way Melissa's smile finally reached her eyes for the first time in days. The way Austin's shoulders relaxed. His posture loosening like a weight had been lifted. They wanted me gone, needed me gone. We're counting down the minutes until my truck pulled out of the driveway. Guess I should hit the road, I said, standing and carrying my plate to the sink. And traffic to Sky Harbor is going to be brutal this time of morning. Don't want to miss my flight. Melissa followed me to the front door, playing her part perfectly. She straightened my collar, even though it didn't need straightening, brushed imaginary lint off my shoulder, hugged me with just enough pressure to seem genuine. Love you, she said. Love you too. The words tasted like ashes in my mouth. I grabbed my suitcase heavier than usual because I'd actually packed everything and walked through the garage to my truck, loaded the suitcase in the bed, started the engine. Melissa stood in the doorway waving, picture-perfect suburban wife seeing her hard-working husband off on another business trip. I backed out of the driveway at 8:30 a.m. sharp. She was still waving when I turned onto the street, still playing the role, still lying. But I didn't head west toward Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport like I'd said. Didn't take the usual route toward the 2012 and then the 143 south to the terminals. Instead, I drove east on Loop 101, then south toward Tempe. Traffic was light mid-morning. Took me 15 minutes to reach my brother's apartment complex on Rural Road, just a few blocks from Arizona State University. Matthew Thornton, 49 years old, 3 years younger than me, financial analyst for a tech company, divorced 5 years ago. His ex-wife had cheated on him with her personal trainer. Now he lived alone in a modest 2-bedroom apartment, worked too much, traveled constantly. Currently in Amsterdam on a business trip until next Tuesday. I'd called him last night after Melissa had gone to bed. Matt, I need to use your place for a few days. Can't explain over the phone right now, but it's important. Really important. Matthew hadn't asked questions. Never did. That's what I'd always loved about my little brother. He just understood when something was serious. Keys under the green welcome mat, he'd said. Apartment 3C, 3rd floor. I'm in Amsterdam until Tuesday morning. Mikasa is Sukasa, big brother. Stay as long as you need. Whatever you're dealing with, I've got your back. I found the key exactly where he'd said. Let myself into the apartment building. Took the elevator to the 3rd floor. Walked down the hallway to 3C. Matthew's place was exactly what you'd expect from a divorced workaholic. Minimalist furniture, clean lines, everything organized and practical. No decorations except a few photos of our parents and some prints of mountain landscapes. The place smelled stale. He'd been gone 4 days already. Windows closed, air conditioning on low. I set my suitcase by the door, walked through the small living room to the dining table, set up my laptop, pulled out my phone, opened Vigil Pro. The app loaded. 4 camera feeds appeared on my screen, arranged in a grid. Crystal clear 4K resolution. Living room empty, kitchen empty, upstairs hallway empty, master bedroom empty, my house, my home empty except for Melissa somewhere off camera, waiting. I sat there at Matthew's dining table, staring at those 4 feeds like they might spontaneously reveal something, like Melissa would suddenly appear and announce this was all a misunderstanding, that Frank had been wrong, that everything I'd overheard was taken out of context. But nothing happened. Hours crawled by. I ordered Chinese food from a restaurant down the street, lo mein and orange chicken that I barely touched. Took a shower in Matthew's small bathroom. Tried to watch something on TV, couldn't focus. My eyes kept drifting back to my phone, back to those 4 feeds. Still empty. 9 p.m. I checked again. Melissa walked through the living room carrying something. Moved too fast for me to see clearly. 9:30. Nothing. 9:50. Melissa appeared in the living room feed again. This time I saw her clearly. She was wearing a dress I didn't recognize. Blue, fitted. She'd done her makeup more than usual. Her hair was styled curled at the ends. She looked beautiful. She was getting ready for someone. My hands started shaking. 9:58. Austin left through the front door. The living room camera caught him checking his phone, grabbing his leather jacket from the coat rack by the entrance. He glanced back at the house once, like he was making sure everything was clear, then walked out of frame. The house was empty now. Just Melissa waiting. My heart hammered against my ribs. I stood up from Matthew's dining table, sat back down, stood up again, paced the small living room phone, gripped so tight my knuckles turned white. This was it. This was the moment. 26 years of marriage about to be documented in 4K resolution with crystal clear audio. 10:05 p.m. The doorbell rang. Before I move forward and show you what happens next, take a moment and let me know in the comments how intense is your curiosity right now about what's about to unfold on a scale from 1 to 10. Your response helps me know you're still here with me at this critical moment. And just a gentle note before we continue. The next part of this story contains dramatized elements created for narrative impact. Some details may not reflect actual events. If this style isn't for you, feel free to stop watching here. Otherwise, let's continue. My finger hovered over the audio activation button. On the living room camera, Melissa opened the door. Gregory Donovan stepped inside 6'2" charcoal suit with subtle pinstripes, Italian leather shoes that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. He carried a bottle of wine in one hand and flowers in the other. I zoomed in on the wine label. Napa Valley Cabernet, the same vineyard Melissa and I had visited on our 15th anniversary. Retail price around $180. He'd brought expensive wine to drink in my house. Before Melissa could say a word, Gregory pulled her into a kiss. I counted 18 seconds. Couldn't look away, even though every second felt like a knife twisting in my chest, deep, hungry. His hand cupped behind her neck. Her body melted into his, like they'd done this 1,000 times before. My hands gripped the edge of Matthew's dining table so hard, my knuckles turned white. The wood creaked under the pressure. When they finally broke apart, Gregory handed her the roses. 12 red roses. I could see them clearly on the 4K feed. "For the most beautiful woman in Arizona," he said. Melissa laughed. a sound I'd never heard in 26 years of marriage. Light, gyrish, delighted, like a teenager with her first crush. "You're such a smooth talker, Doug." Doug. She had a nickname for him. I tapped the audio button. The sound came through crystal clear, like they were in the room with me instead of 15 miles away. They moved to the kitchen. Camera 2 activated automatically, the motion sensor doing exactly what Roberto had promised. I watched Melissa pull out our cork crew, the one we'd bought at that winery in Napa Valley. She reached into the cabinet and took down 2 wine glasses. Not just any glasses, our anniversary glasses. The Waterford crystal her sister had given us for our 10th anniversary. She was using our anniversary glasses to drink wine with my boss. Gregory opened the bottle with practiced ease, poured 2 generous servings like he'd done this before. Probably had. How many times? How many nights had I been in Houston or Denver or San Diego while they drank wine in my kitchen? They raised their glasses. 2 uninterrupted nights, Gregory said. Melissa clinked her glass against his. To my husband and his very convenient business trips. They both laughed. The sound made me want to drive back to Scottsdale and put my fist through Gregory's face. But I stayed frozen at Matthew's table, watching, documenting being the engineer instead of the husband. Their conversation continued. I forced myself to listen to every word. "When does the fool come back?" Gregory asked, taking a sip of the Cabernet. "Monday night. We have the whole weekend." Melissa set her glass down, moved closer to him. 3 full days. Perfect. I told Nancy I'm at a company retreat in Flagstaff. Leadership workshop, team building exercises, all that corporate nonsense. She bought it completely. Nancy, his wife, 54 years old, married to Gregory for 28 years. I'd met her at company Christmas parties. Nice woman. Always asked about Melissa and Austin. Made small talk about gardening and their grandkids. She had no idea either. Gregory swirled his wine, studying it like he was at a tasting room. "You know, I almost feel bad for Thomas sometimes. Guy works so hard, makes good money, completely clueless about what's happening in his own house." My jaw clenched so tight I thought my teeth might crack. Melissa leaned against the counter, my counter in my kitchen. "Don't feel too bad about it. He married his job years ago. Even when he's home, I barely see him. You give me what he never could, attention. Passion, excitement. He's a good provider. I'll give him that. But that's all he is. A good provider. That's all I was to her. A paycheck. A convenient husband who traveled for work and paid the bills while she entertained my boss. I sat in Matthew's apartment watching this unfold on a 6-inch screen, feeling like I was having an out-of-body experience. Like this was happening to someone else. Some other Thomas whose wife was in his kitchen, drinking his expensive wine, using his anniversary glasses, mocking him to his boss. But it wasn't someone else. It was me. 11:30 p.m. They finished the wine, started moving toward the stairs. The hallway camera caught them perfectly. Gregory's hand on Melissa's waist, her head resting on his shoulder, both of them laughing about something I couldn't quite hear. The bedroom camera activated. I didn't watch the intimate parts. Fast-forwarded through sections, though the audio kept recording. But I saved everything. Every frame, every word, every second of betrayal documented in crystal clear, 4K. I plugged in USB drive number 1, started transferring files, 4 hours of footage, then uploaded copies to 2 separate cloud storage accounts with different providers, encrypted passwords, 2-factor authentication, evidence, documentation, proof that would hold up in any court. 1:47 a.m. Gregory was still there. The bedroom camera showed 2 figures under my sheets in my bed. The one Melissa had insisted we buy 12 years ago because the old one hurt her back. I finally closed Vigil Pro. Sat in the darkness of Matthew's living room, staring at nothing. The apartment was silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional car passing on Rural Road outside. My phone buzzed. Text from Melissa. Hope Houston is going well. Miss you. The heart emoji. The same one she'd sent me 10,000 times over the years. The same one she probably thought meant something. I stared at the message. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. Part of me wanted to respond, to type exactly what I was thinking, to tell her I knew, that I'd seen everything, that I was going to destroy her. But I didn't. Couldn't risk giving away what I knew. Not yet. Not until I had everything documented, every pattern established, every piece of evidence locked down. I set the phone face down on the coffee table. 3 a.m. I was still awake, lying on Matthew's couch, staring at his ceiling. White paint, smooth texture, nothing like the textured ceiling in my bedroom where I'd lay next to Melissa for 26 years. 4 hours of footage saved. Audio of them mocking me, calling me a fool, laughing about my convenient business trips, using my home like a hotel, drinking wine I'd paid for with glasses I'd received as gifts. But I needed more than one night. One night was a mistake, a lapse in judgment, something a lawyer could explain away. I needed a pattern, multiple instances, evidence that this was systematic, ongoing, premeditated. I needed proof that would be undeniable in divorce court. When custody discussions happened, when asset division came up, when lawyers started calculating alimony and property splits. So, I waited for Saturday. Saturday, February 16th, 11 a.m. I checked Vigil Pro, expecting to see an empty house, hoping maybe that Friday night had been a one-time thing, a mistake, something Melissa would regret and never do again. The kitchen camera proved me wrong. Gregory and Melissa were having breakfast together, 11 to 17 a.m., according to the timestamp in the corner of the feed. A domestic scene that made bile rise in my throat. Gregory sat at my kitchen table wearing my bathrobe, navy blue, the one Melissa had given me for Christmas 3 years ago, reading something on a tablet, probably the news. Completely comfortable, completely at home. Melissa stood at the stove in a silk nightgown, scrambling eggs in my cast iron skillet, the one I'd seasoned myself over years of use. Her hair was messy, uncombed. She looked relaxed, happy. They looked exactly like a married couple having a lazy Saturday morning. I tapped the audio icon with shaking fingers, thinking next weekend. Gregory was saying when he's in Denver. Melissa flipped the eggs. 3 full days. Where will you tell Nancy you are? Visiting my brother in Tucson. She never checks, never has. He took a sip of coffee from my favorite mug, the Arizona State one I'd had since college. Your husband makes this very convenient. You know, all this travel, it's almost too easy. Melissa laughed. Actually laughed. Well, that's Thomas. Predictable, reliable, never questions anything. I started taking notes, documenting everything. Dates mentioned, lies being planned, the casual comfort they displayed in my house, the way Gregory wore my clothes, the way Melissa cooked for him like she used to cook for me back before she stopped caring. Evidence. I needed evidence, not emotion, not rage. Evidence. Saturday, 8:45 p.m. Austin left the house through the front door. The camera caught him checking his phone, grabbing his keys, getting into his car. The pattern was confirmed. Austin made himself scarce whenever Gregory came over. Not because he was uncomfortable with his mother's affair, because he was part of it, paid to enable it. 10 p.m. Gregory arrived again. Same routine. Wine, flowers, that kiss in the doorway that lasted too long. I watched it all from Matthew's apartment, documented everything. saved files, backed up to multiple locations. Sunday morning, 10:30 a.m. They were still together. I watched them drink coffee in my kitchen, discussing their next meeting, like business partners planning a merger. Melissa mentioned something about Austin needing money. Gregory laughed, said something about the kid having expensive taste. The kid, my son, their accomplice. Then, at 11:30 Sunday morning, the most damning footage appeared. Austin came home. The front door camera caught him walking in, casual as anything. No hesitation, no surprise. He went straight to the kitchen where Gregory sat still wearing my bathrobe like he owned the place. Austin showed zero shock, zero discomfort. "Hey, Gregory." "Mom upstairs." "Yeah." Gregory didn't even look up from his phone. "She's in the shower." The familiarity between them made my blood run cold. This wasn't the first time. This wasn't awkward or new. This was routine, practiced, normal. Austin grabbed a water bottle from the fridge, stood there like he was talking to a family friend about what we discussed last week. My dad mentioned something about installing security cameras. Should we be worried? Gregory actually laughed, set down his phone, and looked at Austin with amusement. "Your dad's all talk, kid. Always has been. He mentions doing things all the time, but never follows through. I've managed him for 8 years. I know exactly how he operates. He won't do anything." The words hit me like a physical blow. My boss, the man I'd trusted, the man I'd worked for. He was sitting in my kitchen wearing my bathrobe, sleeping with my wife, paying my son, and calling me incompetent. Austin nodded, seemed satisfied. "Good. Also, you still owe me this month's payment, $750 for February, already in your account as of Friday. What about that extra $500 you mentioned?" Gregory sighed like Austin was being unreasonable. "That's only if you warn me about any real suspicion. The camera thing doesn't count clearly. He didn't do anything about it." "Come on, man. I need the money. I'm broke. Fine." Gregory pulled out his phone. "I'll advance you $400 against March, but that's it. I'm not an ATM." Austin grinned. "Deal. Thanks, Doug." They shook hands. I stared at my phone screen, at my son negotiating payment terms for betraying me like it was a business transaction. Like selling out your father was just another side hustle. $750 a month, plus bonuses for information, plus advances when he ran short. I took screenshots, saved the video clip, transferred it to USB drive number 2, uploaded it to cloud storage Google Drive with encryption enabled, then uploaded to a second cloud account for redundancy. By Sunday evening, I had 14 hours of footage across 3 days. Gregory arriving Friday night, still there Saturday morning, Saturday night, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. Not a one-night mistake, not a lapse in judgment, a pattern, a routine, a relationship. Gregory finally left at 7:15 Sunday evening. I watched him kiss Melissa goodbye at the door, watched her watch him drive away with an expression of genuine sadness. She missed him already. Melissa closed the door, stood there for a moment with her hand pressed against the wood. Then she turned and walked back into the house. Our house and I watched her sit on the couch and stare at nothing. My phone buzzed. Text from Melissa. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Safe travels home." Safe travels. From the business trip, I wasn't actually on to the home that wasn't really mine anymore, to the wife who'd spent the weekend with my boss. I didn't respond. Sunday night, 10:30 p.m. I sat in Matthew's apartment with 2 USB drives and cloud backups containing 14 hours of video evidence. Evidence of infidelity, evidence of conspiracy, evidence of Austin receiving monthly payments of $750. Evidence of them mocking me, planning future encounters. using my home like a hotel. But evidence alone wasn't enough. I needed professionals, a lawyer who specialized in divorce, a private investigator who could dig deeper, financial experts who could trace money, character witnesses who could testify. I needed to build an army. Tomorrow I'd start recruiting. Monday, February 19th, 2024, 9 a.m. I wasn't at my desk at Core Construction, wasn't reviewing blueprints or analyzing project budgets, wasn't pretending everything was normal while Gregory walked past my office with that confident stride. Instead, I sat in the waiting room of Investigative Solutions, LLC on Camelback Road, watching the second hand tick around a wall clock that seemed to move too slowly. I'd called Gregory at 8 a.m., kept my voice weak, tired, not feeling great today, going to work from home. His response came immediately, sympathetic, concerned. "Take care of yourself, Thomas. Don't push it. Your health comes first." Thomas. He had a nickname for me, too, just like Melissa called him Doug. The concern in his voice would have been touching if I didn't know he'd spent the weekend in my bed wearing my bathrobe drinking wine from my anniversary glasses. At exactly 9 o'clock, the office door opened. Derek Sullivan stepped out. 50 years old, built like someone who'd spent decades walking beats and chasing suspects. Former Phoenix PD detective turned private investigator. 15 years in the business, according to the website I'd researched obsessively yesterday afternoon, gray eyes that missed nothing. Firm handshake. The kind of man who'd seen everything and wasn't easily shocked. "Mr. Thornton?" His voice was growly professional. "Come on in." His office matched the man. Professional without being fancy. File cabinets organized with military precision. Awards on the wall. Phoenix Private Investigator of the year 2022. Commendations from the police department. Photos of him in uniform. Younger receiving medals. This was someone who knew how to build cases. Someone who understood evidence. I set my laptop on his desk. "Mr. Sullivan, I need you to watch something." "Derek, call me Derek." He pulled his chair closer. "And before we start, everything you tell me is confidential. Client privilege. Whatever's on that screen stays between us unless you authorize otherwise." I opened the edited compilation I'd made last night. 22 minutes of the most damning footage from my 14 hours of evidence. The kiss at the door, the wine toast, the conversation about the fool and convenient business trips, Melissa and Gregory having breakfast in my kitchen. And finally, the part that made my hands shake every time I watched it. Austin negotiating payment with Gregory. The handshake. The casual discussion of my son's monthly rate for betraying me. Derek watched in silence. His expression stayed neutral, professional. But I caught small tells. The way his jaw tightened when Gregory called me incompetent. The way his pen stopped moving when Austin asked about his payment. The way he leaned back when they shook hands like he needed distance from what he was seeing. When the video ended, Derek sat quietly for a moment. Then he closed the laptop and looked at me. "Mr. Thornton." Thomas. He set his pen down deliberately. "I've been doing this for 15 years. Seen a lot of cheating spouses. Seen financial betrayal. Seen families torn apart. But a son taking money to cover up his mother's affair." He shook his head. "That's a new level of moral bankruptcy." "Can you get his financial records?" I asked. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Every transfer Gregory made to Austin over the past year. I need documentation beyond what I've recorded." Derek nodded, already taking notes. "I can subpoena bank records through legal channels for civil cases. Takes about 10 days. I'll also run a comprehensive background on Gregory Donovan employment history assets. Any skeletons in his closet?" Man this comfortable with betrayal, there's usually more than one victim. What about my wife? Her finances, that too. Phone records showing frequency of contact. Credit card statements, travel patterns. If there are hotel visits, rental properties, anything that establishes this as an ongoing affair, rather than an isolated incident. He looked up from his notes. You're building toward divorce, I assume, among other things. Derek quoted his fee, $5,200 for a comprehensive investigation that includes forensic accounting, complete background checks, surveillance if needed, and testimony preparation if this goes to court. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, transferred $5,200 via Zelle without hesitation. Derek's eyebrows rose slightly. You came prepared. Most people take a few days to decide. I've had 2 days to think about nothing else. He glanced at his computer, confirming the transfer. All right, then. We're officially engaged. I'll start with the financial records. Those take the longest. Background checks. I can have preliminary results by Thursday. Full workup by next Monday. Thursday works. Derek leaned back in his chair, studying me. One question, Thomas, if you don't mind. The wife, I get it. Affairs happen. Marriages fail. That's ugly but common. But your son, he shook his head. Actively participating, taking money. In 15 years, I've never seen a kid do that. Why? I stared at Derek's wall, at the commendations, the certificates, the evidence of a career spent finding truth. I don't know, I said finally. I keep asking myself that. $750 a month. That's what I'm worth to him. That's the price tag for betraying your father. Did you have a bad relationship? Was he resentful, looking for payback? No. The word came out hollow. I taught him to ride a bike, coached his little league team, paid for his college until he dropped out, let him live at home rent-free for 2 years. I thought... My voice cracked. I thought we were close. Derek didn't offer platitudes. Didn't say it wasn't my fault or that I'd done my best, just nodded. Wrote something in his file and moved on. Professional, efficient, exactly what I needed. I'll need copies of everything you've recorded, he said. Send encrypted files to this email address. He wrote it on his business card. And Thomas, you did the right thing documenting this. A lot of people confront, immediately destroy evidence, make the case harder to prove. You kept your head, built documentation. That's going to matter in court. We shook hands. Derek walked me to the door. Preliminary report Thursday afternoon. I'll call when it's ready. And Thomas? He paused. I'm sorry this is happening. For what it's worth, you're doing everything right. Stay the course. I left his office at 10:45 a.m. One professional secured, one piece of my army assembled. But documentation wasn't enough. I needed a legal executioner, someone who could take this evidence and turn it into financial devastation, asset seizure, disinheritance, a divorce settlement that would leave Melissa with nothing. I had an appointment with attorney Carolyn Spencer at 11:30. 11:30 a.m. Same day, 15th floor of a downtown Phoenix high-rise. Spencer and Associates Family Law occupied the corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The reception area smelled like leather and expensive coffee. Everything pristine, professional framed case victories lined the hallway. Settlement agreements with impressive numbers. Court decisions highlighted in yellow. Carolyn Spencer's office was at the end. Corner suite. Windows on 2 sides. Bookshelves packed with Arizona law. Awards on the wall. Arizona Family Law Attorney of the Year, 2019. A plaque. 94% success rate in contested divorces. 35 years. Carolyn stood when I entered. 60 years old, sharp gray suit, reading glasses on a chain presence of someone who'd spent decades destroying opposing counsel. Mr. Thornton, firm handshake, please sit. I handed her USB drive number 1. Miss Chuck Spencer, I need a divorce and I need to legally destroy them. She plugged in the drive without hesitation, watched my 15-minute compilation in silence, taking notes, pausing to review sections. Her pen moved constantly. When it ended, she removed her glasses. Thomas, may I call you Thomas? With evidence like this, we're not just aiming for a favorable divorce. We're aiming for legal devastation. She pulled up Arizona community property law, turned the screen toward me. Normally, Arizona is 50-50, but adultery with clear documentary evidence changes everything. With proof this ironclad, you'll receive 75% of marital assets, possibly 80%. The house becomes yours solely, and she'll receive 0 spousal maintenance. Arizona allows complete denial in adultery cases. The house is valued at $780,000, I said. So joint investments, about $320,000. Savings, $178,000. Carolyn made notes. Combined assets approximately $1,278,000. You're looking at roughly $960,000. She gets maybe $300,000 zero ongoing support. The numbers felt clinical, abstract, like a business transaction instead of 26 years ending. Now, regarding your son. She pulled up another document. We'll file for disinheritance under Arizona Revised Statute Section 14-2804. He conspired against you for financial gain. That's grounds for complete removal. Will life insurance, retirement accounts, everything. The word disinheritance hit harder than expected. Austin was still my son, the boy I'd raised who'd hugged me after Little League games. Then I remembered $750 a month. Do it, I said. Carolyn nodded. Regarding inheritance rights, we should verify paternity. Standard procedure in high-value disinheritance cases. Eliminates any future challenges, makes everything airtight. I froze. A DNA test. Exactly. Just precautionary. You're removing him from inheritance. We want no loopholes for him to challenge later. It's thorough legal process. Something cold settled in my stomach. Is that necessary in a case this complex, with this much money at stake? Yes. It closes every possible avenue for dispute. She handed me a business card. Gene Test Labs. Fast, reliable, court admissible. Collect a DNA sample hair with follicles works best. Results in 5 to 7 business days. She slid a pre-filled form across the desk. Total legal fees, $11,500, $6,000 retainer today, remainder when we file. I transferred $6,000 via my phone. Carolyn's computer pinged. You came prepared? I've had time to think about what I need. Paperwork will be ready next week. We'll coordinate with Derek Sullivan. I've worked with him before. Now, how do you want to serve the papers? I looked her directly in the eye. I want to be there with you with a process server. I want to see their faces when they realize what's happening. Carolyn smiled slightly, the smile of a general approving a battle plan. That can be arranged. We discussed strategy for 20 more minutes. Timeline, court procedures, asset division, the likelihood Melissa would contest. She can contest all she wants, Carolyn said. But you have 14 hours of video evidence, bank records coming, professional testimony. No judge will side with her. At 1:15 p.m., I left with the Gene Test Labs kit in my briefcase. Small cardboard box, collection tubes, evidence bags, instructions, just a precaution, Carolyn had said. Standard procedure. But something about it felt heavier. That evening, After Austin's usual long shower, I walked into his bathroom. His hairbrush sat on the counter, black bristles full of dark hair. I pulled on latex gloves from the kit, selected 3 strands with clear follicles, sealed them in the evidence bag, filled out the chain of custody form, signed where indicated. By 9:00 p.m., the FedEx envelope was in the overnight drop box. Priority delivery to GAN test labs in Scottsdale. 5 to 7 business days for results. Just procedure, I told myself. Just covering all legal bases. Austin was my son. Of course he was. I'd been there when he was born. Cut the umbilical cord. Held him when he was seconds old. But I needed to be thorough. Monday, February 26th, 2024 morning. I'd spent the past week maintaining perfect normally at CORE. Reviewed blueprints, attended meetings, made small talk with Gregory about project timelines. He never suspected a thing. 9 a.m., Key Bank downtown Phoenix branch. Patricia Moreno met me in a private consultation room. My financial advisor for 8 years, early 40s, efficient, discreet. She'd helped me refinance the house, set up retirement accounts, plan Austin's college fund back when he was still in school. Patricia, I need to make some urgent changes to my accounts. My marriage is ending. I need to protect my assets. Her expression stayed professional. No surprise, no judgment. I understand. What do you need? I'd made a list, rehearsed it. First, transfer $135,000 from our joint savings account into my personal account. Leave Melissa $43,000 enough to avoid any legal claims of financial abuse. Patricia made notes. Current joint balance is $178,000. That leaves her roughly 24% within legal parameters for asset preservation during divorce proceedings. Second, cancel Austin supplementary credit card. American Express $10,000 limit. I've been paying it for 2 years. More notes? Done. The card will be deactivated within the hour. Third, remove Austin from my life insurance beneficiaries. Northwestern Mutual Policy, $425,000 value. Change primary beneficiary to my brother Matthew Thornton. Patricia pulled up the policy on her computer. That's a significant change. Are you certain? Completely certain. Fourth, update my will. Remove Austin entirely. Everything goes to Matthew if I die. She typed for a moment. I'll need you to meet with our estate attorney to formalize the will changes. I can schedule that for this afternoon if you're available. Do it. Patricia worked efficiently, transferring money, updating beneficiaries, making notes for the legal department, professional, clinical, like we were discussing investment strategies instead of dismantling my family. These changes will be effective within 48 hours. She said, Is there anything else? I need complete statements for the past 3 years, both joint accounts and credit cards. While she printed, I reviewed Melissa's spending on our joint account. The numbers told their own story. $6,400 over the past 14 months for personal items. I scrolled through the details. Victoria's Secret, $840. Sephora perfume purchases $650. Bella Rosa spa treatments, 2,100 dinners at expensive restaurants when I was supposedly traveling for work. She'd been preparing for Gregory on my dime, getting her hair done, buying lingerie, spa treatments, all charged to our joint account while I was in Houston or Denver earning the money she was spending. Austin's credit card statement was worse. $18,200 in 2 years, while unemployed, while living in my house, rentry while collecting $750 monthly from Gregory. Bars, restaurants, designer clothes, electronics, gaming equipment, concert tickets. I'd been funding his lifestyle while he took payment to betray me. Patricia handed me the printouts, thick stack. 3 years of financial betrayal documented in black and white. Every dinner, every spa appointment, every purchase Melissa had made while planning her next encounter with my boss. Anything else, Mr. Thornton? I shook my head. This is enough. Thank you for your discretion. Of course, and Thomas. She paused at the door. I'm sorry this is happening. I left the bank at 10:30, walked across the parking lot toward my truck, the Arizona sun already heating up the asphalt. Mid-70s in late February. Perfect weather. Beautiful day. My phone rang. Derek Sullivan, Thomas, preliminary results. I unlocked my truck, sat in the driver's seat. Go ahead. Gregory Donovan transferred exactly $10,500 to Austin's Bank of America account over 14 months. $750 monthly regular as clockwork. Started March 2023, continued through April 2024. I have the full bank records, dates, amounts, account numbers, everything. Cold satisfaction settled in my chest. Good. What else? Something interesting. Your wife has an old Yahoo email account from the late 90s. Looks like she forgot about it. But it's still active, still backing up to cloud storage. There might be communication history there, early emails. Correspondence may be evidence of how long this has been going on. My pulse quickened. Can you access it legally? It's her account. But if it's stored on shared devices or has recoverable passwords through public information, it's fair game for civil investigation, especially with evidence of conspiracy already established. Do it. I need to see everything. Give me until tonight. I'll send you what I find. Derek hung up. I sat in my truck with the engine off, reviewing Patricia's financial documents. $135,000 secured in my personal account. Austin's credit card canneled. He'd find out the next time he tried to use it. Life insurance redirected to Matthew. Will updated. My financial walls were up. My evidence was backed up in triplicate. And Derek was excavating Melissa's digital past. Whatever he found in those old emails, I knew it wouldn't be good. But I needed to know. Needed to understand how deep this went. How long I'd been played for a fool. My phone buzzed. Email notification, Gene Test Labs. Subject line DNA test results ready for review. I stared at the screen. The notification sat there innocuous, professional. Just another email among dozens I received daily. Just routine, Caroline had said. Standard procedure for disinheritance cases, dotting I's and crossing T's, closing legal loopholes. Austin was my son, 26 years. I'd been there when Melissa's water broke at 3 a.m., driven 90 meters an hour to Good Samaritan Hospital, held her hand through 12 hours of labor, cut the umbilical cord myself when the doctor offered, watched him take his first breath, heard his first cry. I changed his diapers, taught him to walk, read him bedtime stories, coached his little league team, helped with homework, driven him to school every morning for 12 years. Of course, he was mine. I opened the email. The message was brief, professional. Your DNA test results are ready for secure viewing. Please log into your account portal using the credentials provided during sample submission. I clicked the link, entered my case number, password. The loading screen took 3 seconds, felt like 3 hours. Then the results appeared. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. Conclusion. The tested male is excluded as the biological father of the tested child. I read it again, then again. The words didn't change. 0% excluded. Not the biological father. Austin wasn't my son. 26 years. 26 years of believing, of raising him, of loving him, of thinking he was mine, and he wasn't. My hands started shaking. The phone slipped from my fingers. clattered onto the center console. I sat in that parking lot engine off windows up the Arizona sun, beating down on my truck, and felt my entire life collapse into something I didn't recognize anymore. Wednesday, February 28th, 2024, 3:47 a.m. My phone vibrated on Matthew's nightstand, pulling me from shallow sleep. I'd been staying at his apartment on and off, telling Melissa I was doing extended site inspections. She believed it. Why wouldn't she? I'd always been reliable, predictable, the perfect fool. The notification lit up the screen. Email from Gene Test Labs. Subject line: DNA test results confidential. I sat up instantly, heart hammering, mouth dry. Just routine, I told myself. Standard procedure. Caroline had said so, just crossing T's and dotting I's for the disinheritance filing. I opened the email on my phone. My hands were shaking slightly. PDF attachment downloaded. Paternity analysis report. Thomas Thornton alleged father and Austin Thornton child. I scrolled to the conclusions section. 3 words destroyed my world. Probability of paternity 0. 0%. I read it again. The words didn't change. The tested male, Thomas Thornton, is excluded as the biological father of the tested child, Austin Thornton. For 47 seconds, I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, just stared at those words on the small screen in the darkness of Matthew's guest room. Then I lurched to the bathroom and vomited hard. Everything in my stomach emptied into the toilet while I gripped the edges, cold sweat breaking out across my forehead. When the retching stopped, I sat on the cold tile floor, shaking. The fluorescent bathroom light hummed overhead. Too bright, too harsh. When I could stand, I went back to the bedroom, opened my laptop. Needed to see the report on a bigger screen, needed to be absolutely certain. The results were definitive, clinical, unambiguous, 0% probability. Not my son. Never was. My mind started calculating. Engineer's habit even in crisis. 26 years of child-rearing costs. Average $19,000 per year according to USDA estimates. That's $494,000 plus Arizona State tuition before he dropped out. $45,000 plus the Honda Civic I bought him at $1,822,000. Plus 2 years of living expenses while he was unemployed. $38,000 total, $599,000 I'd spent raising another man's son. The memories came without permission, flooding back, each one now poisoned. The hospital room in 1998. The nurse placing newborn Austin in my arms. "Congratulations, Dad." Melissa smiling weakly from the bed. "He has your eyes." She'd lied even then, looking me straight in the face and lying. Austin at 7 years old, teaching him to ride a bike in our driveway, running alongside, holding the seat steady. "I got you, buddy. I got you." His skinned knee, me bandaging it. His trust in me, absolute. Austin's high school graduation 2016, cap and gown. "Thanks for everything, Dad. I couldn't have done this without you." My chest swelling with pride. Every birthday, every Christmas, every "I love you, Dad," all built on a lie. I wasn't raising my son. I was raising Gregory Donovan's son. Melissa had known from day one, had looked at me holding that baby in the hospital and let me believe he was mine. Let me cut the umbilical cord. Let me sign the birth certificate. Let me love him for 26 years. I was crying, actually crying for the first time in maybe 20 years, sitting on the floor of Matthew's apartment at 4:30 in the morning, tears running down my face, trying to process the fact that my entire identity as a father had been a fiction. 6 a.m. I called Derek Sullivan. Too early. But this was an emergency. He answered on the second ring. Thomas. My voice broke. He's not my son. Austin. The DNA results came back. 0% match. Silence on the other end. Then, Jesus Christ. Thomas. I'm so sorry. This changes everything legally. You can sue for paternity fraud. You could recover over $500,000 in damages. Those old emails, I said through tears. Did you find anything? Still going through them. Give me until tonight. But Thomas, if the DNA is 0%, we need to figure out who the biological father is. I already knew. In my gut, I knew it's Gregory. Has to be Gregory. Let me verify. I'll have answers by this evening. He hung up. I sat on Matthew's couch as dawn broke over Tempe, watching the sky lighten through the window, holding a DNA report that said I'd been living a lie for 26 years. At 8 a.m., I called Cortec, told Gregory I was still sick, needed another day. His concern sounded genuine. Thomas, you okay? That's 3 days and 2 weeks. Maybe you should see a doctor. Maybe I should see a doctor. The man who'd gotten my wife pregnant 26 years ago was worried about my health. I spent Wednesday in a fog, sitting in Matthew's apartment, staring at the DNA report on my laptop screen, reading it over and over, like the words might change. They didn't. 26 years. Over $500,000. Thousands of moments I'd cherished as a father. First steps, first words, teaching him baseball, helping with homework, college visits. All of it built on a foundational lie so perfect it had erased my identity. I wasn't Thomas Thornton, devoted father. I was Thomas Thornton, useful dupe. Around noon, I pulled up photos on my phone. Austin as a baby, toddler, little kid, teenager, graduate, looking for resemblance to me, finding none. How had I never noticed? How had I never questioned because I'd trusted Melissa, believed her when she said, "He has your eyes." Never thought to look closer, because why would I? She was my wife. He was my son. Except he wasn't. At 3:00 p.m. my phone rang. Carolyn Spencer. Thomas, I just received the DNA results. Are you all right? No. This is paternity fraud. In Arizona, we can add this to the filing. Melissa concealed Austin's biological parentage for 26 years. That's intentional misrepresentation. We can seek full restitution every penny you spent on child support, education, living expenses. We're talking $500,000 to $600,000 in damages. Who's the father? My voice sounded hollow. Can we prove it's Gregory? That's the next step. We'll need Gregory's DNA to confirm. But Thomas, even without that confirmation, the fraud case is solid. She let you raise another man's child while knowing the truth. That's actionable. We talked for 20 more minutes. Legal strategy, filing amendments, damage calculations, but I couldn't focus. Couldn't think past the fact that the boy I'd raised, the son I'd loved, had never been mine at all. At 7:15 p.m., Derek called back. Thomas, I went through Melissa's old Yahoo account, the one from 1997. And you need to sit down for this. I'm already sitting. Melissa and Gregory have known each other since 1997. Before you even met her. Wednesday, February 28th, 7:15 p.m. My phone rang. Derek Sullivan. I'd been sitting in Matthew's apartment for hours, waiting for this call. Derek. His voice was careful. Thomas, sit down. What I found in those old emails, it's worse than we thought. I gripped the armrest. Tell me. Derek had accessed Melissa's Yahoo account from 1997 to 1998. She'd set up automatic cloud backup, then forgotten about it. 23 emails between Melissa and Gregory. September 1997 through March 1998. I'm sending them now. But let me read you the important ones. Email 1, September 14th, 1997 from gregory.donovan.work@morrison-.com to Kathy C. 1975@yahoo.com. Subject: We need to talk. Kathy, I can't do this. A baby, I'm 29. My career at Morrison Engineering is just starting. I'm up for project manager next month. A kid would destroy everything. You need to make a choice. I felt ice spread through my veins. Email 2, September 18th, 1997. Melissa's response: Doug, relax. I'm not asking you to raise it. I have a plan. There's a guy I met at a coffee shop last week. Thomas Thornton, 25, junior engineer at Core Tech Construction. Stable job, good income. Seems really sweet and kind of naive. I can work with him. You focus on your career. I'll handle it. Derek paused. Thomas, she targeted you. This was calculated. Keep going. Email 3, October 15th, 1997. 3 dates with Thomas. He's perfect, responsible. Ernest talks about wanting a family. I told him I'm on birth control. I'm 12 weeks along. He believes everything. Give me 2 more months. Email 4, December 22nd, 1997. He proposed last night. Took him to South Mountain Lookout. He had a whole speech about building a life together. Ring is smaller than I hoped, half carat, but whatever. I told him I'm pregnant. He cried. He was so happy. Thinks it happened last month. Numbers line up perfectly. Wedding March 1998. You owe me big time, Gregory. Email 5, January 1998. Gregory, you did good, Kathy. I'll send you $800 monthly once the kid is born. Keep him convinced it's his. Maybe in a few years we can figure something else out. Derek continued. 18 more emails. Gregory sending money $800 a month for Austin's first 2 years. Updates on the baby. Emails stop in 2000 when Gregory moved to Tucson. But they stayed in contact. Sporadic payments over the years. 500 here, 1,000 there. Birthday money for the kid. She never told you. So Gregory has known for 26 years. Melissa trapped me from the start. I was selected at a coffee shop. Paternity fraud, conspiracy to defraud. 26 years documented. You're holding a nuclear bomb. Derek sent all 23 emails. I read each one. Melissa's casual tone describing sweet, naive Thomas. Gregory's relief at not dealing with the kid. Their agreement to keep me blind. September 1997, 1 month before I met Melissa, the coffee shop in Tempe where she'd accidentally bumped into me, where we'd talked for 2 hours, where she'd smiled and asked about my job, none of it real. She'd been 12 weeks pregnant, already planning, already hunting. I remembered my proposal. South Mountain. I'd been so nervous. Had the ring in my pocket for 2 weeks, practiced my speech. He actually cried. He was so happy. She'd been laughing inside, thinking how perfect a mark I was. The pregnancy announcement 3 weeks later. Her tears. Relief, not joy. My promise to be the best father. Our rushed wedding in March because we wanted the baby to have married parents. All choreographed, all scripted. I pulled up wedding photos. March 1998. Melissa in white, me grinning. The luckiest man alive. The Mark who didn't know he'd been selected. Austin's birth. April 1998. Me cutting the umbilical cord. Congratulations, Dad. Melissa's weak smile. He has your eyes. He never had my eyes. Gregory had sent $800 monthly for 2 years. Then sporadic payments. Birthday money. I'd spent $599,000 raising his son. Your son's getting so big, Thomas. You must be proud. Gregory had said that multiple times at company events, standing in my house, drinking my beer, knowing Austin was his. By 10 p.m., I wasn't sad anymore. I was cold, surgical. They hadn't just betrayed me for 14 months. They'd built a 26-year lie, shaped my entire adult life, used me as a tool. Melissa had targeted me, studied me, seduced me, trapped me. 3 months from coffee shop to engagement to pregnancy announcement. A professional con lasting 2.5 decades. And Austin, the son I'd raised, loved. Taught to throw a baseball, he'd known. Melissa or Gregory had told him. Instead of telling me he'd taken $750 monthly to stay quiet, I paced Matthew's apartment, made coffee, sat back down, read the emails again. By midnight, my hands were steady. The grief had crystallized into something sharper. Tomorrow I'd call Carolyn Spencer, tell her about the emails, the 26-year conspiracy. We wouldn't just file for divorce, criminal charges, civil suits, paternity fraud, conspiracy to defraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress. I'd take the house, savings, investments, every penny. I'd sue Gregory for $599,000 in restitution, plus interest, plus punitive damages. I'd disinherit Austin completely, remove him from my will insurance life, and I'd make sure everyone knew. Core neighbors, friends, Melissa's family, Gregory's wife, Nancy, everyone would know what they'd done. They'd built a 26-year lie. I was going to burn it to the ground. Friday, March 1st, 2024, 3:00 p.m. I stepped into Martin Chandler's office on the 12th floor of Core Construction, carrying a leather briefcase containing the end of Gregory Donovan's career. Martin's corner office was massive, floor-toes windows overlooking downtown Phoenix, mahogany desk walls displaying 35 years of company history. Martin Chandler, 72 years old, silver hair, sharp blue eyes, founded Core in 1989, built it from a 3-person operation into a $50 million company. He stood to greet me. Firm handshake. Thomas, your email mentioned an urgent ethics violation involving Gregory. That's a serious allegation. Please sit. I sat across from his desk, setting my briefcase between us. Thank you for making time, Mr. Chandler. I wouldn't ask for this meeting unless it was critical. You've been with us 8 years. You're one of my best engineers. I trust your judgment. What's going on? I opened the briefcase, pulled out 3 USB drives. Derek Sullivan's 40-page investigation report in a professional binder and a manila folder containing DNA results. I pushed the first USB across his desk. I need you to watch this. It involves Gregory Donovan. For the next 22 minutes, Martin reviewed footage on his large monitor. I'd created a compilation specifically for this meeting. Video Gregory entering my house. Timestamps visible. Audio. The when does the fool come back conversation. Video Austin and Gregory shaking hands. Clear audio about $750 monthly payments. Derek's financial analysis, $10,500 in bank transfers over 14 months. Core Tech company policy highlighted, Section 17B prohibiting romantic relationships with relatives or spouses of subordinates. I watched Martin's face. Confusion for the first 3 minutes, disbelief from 4 to 8, jaw clenching from 9 to 15, controlled fury from 16 to 22. Martin removed his reading glasses, set them down carefully. This is Gregory has been with us 11 years. This is the most serious violation I've seen in 35 years running this company. There's more, Mr. Chandler. I pushed the DNA report across. Gregory Donovan is my son's biological father. He's known for 26 years. My wife and he conspired to keep this secret while I raised his child. I have emails from 1997 proving they planned this. Martin read the DNA report. His face darkened. He pressed his intercom button. Amanda, find Gregory Donovan immediately. Tell him to come to my office right now. Emergency. 80 minutes of waiting. Martin reviewed more of Derek's report, occasionally shaking his head. Gregory walked in at 3:47 p.m., confident stride, expensive navy suit, completely unaware of the trap waiting. He saw me. His smile faltered slightly to Martin Thomas. What's going on? Gregory, sit down. Gregory sat, eyes darting between us nervously. Martin turned his monitor toward Gregory. Hit play. Audio filled the office. Gregory's own voice. Thomas's perfect works hard. Makes good money too stupid to realize what's happening in his own house. Gregory went pale. That's taken out of context. Martin played the money exchange clip. Austin and Gregory shaking hands. Clear audio about monthly payments. Gregory stammered. I can explain. She seduced me. Melissa came on to me. I was weak. I spoke for the first time. Voice ice cold. Don't! You paid my son $750 monthly for 14 months. You used your position to control my schedule. You created opportunities to sleep with my wife. And here's the best part. I pushed the DNA report in front of Gregory. 0% match. Austin isn't my son. He's yours. You've been sleeping with your own son's mother in my house on my dime for 26 years. I have emails from 1997 proving you knew he was yours from the beginning. Gregory's face turned the color of old paper. His hands shook. Thomas, what? How did you? I didn't. Martin cut in, voice hard as granite. Is this true, Gregory? Is that your biological child? Gregory couldn't answer, just stared at the DNA report. You're fired. Effective immediately. Termination for cause under Section 17B. Engaging in relationships that compromise corporate integrity and involve subordinates, family members. You forfeit all accumulated bonuses, $485,000 total. Security will escort you from the building. You have 10 minutes to collect personal items under supervision. Martin, please. 11 years. I have a family, 3 kids, my reputation. You should have thought about that before systematically violating every ethical standard this company has and betraying one of our best engineers. Martin hit the intercom. Amanda called security. 2 officers to my office immediately. While waiting, Martin turned to me. Thomas, I'm profoundly sorry this happened under my watch. Effective today, you're promoted to regional director. Salary increases to $142,000 annually. You'll report directly to me if you need time to handle personal matters approved. I nodded, feeling numb. Thank you. Security arrived at 4:47 p.m. 2 officers escorted Gregory out. Gregory looked back at me once. His eyes held pure hatred. After Gregory left, Martin spoke. Thomas, if there's anything else the company can do. I shook my head. You've done enough. Justice needed to happen here. I left Martin's office at 5:15 p.m. By 5:30, I'd sent one final email to nancy.r.donovan@gmail. Come subject your husband's 26 years secret attachments. Selected videos, DNA. Report 1997 emails. Mrs. Donovan, I'm sorry you have to learn the truth this way. Your husband Gregory and my wife Melissa have been having an affair. But it's worse than that. 26 years ago, Melissa was pregnant with Gregory's child. They trapped me into raising that child as my own. I have proof attached. You deserve to know who you're married to. Thomas Thornton. Send. by 6 p.m., and I was in my truck heading home with attorney Carolyn Spencer and process server Ricardo Navarro. The hardest part was waiting at my house. Friday, March 1st, 2024, 6 p.m. sharp. My truck pulled into the driveway of the house I'd called home for 26 years. The Spanish colonial with terracotta tiles gleamed in the late afternoon sun, looking as picture-perfect as the day Melissa had fallen in love with it back in 1998. Except now, I knew the truth about what that love had really meant. Attorney Carolyn Spencer sat in the passenger seat, her leather briefcase resting on her lap. In the back seat, process server Ricardo Navarro from Maricopa County Court adjusted his official uniform and gathered the sealed envelopes that would change everything. My hands were completely steady on the steering wheel. No shaking, no hesitation. The grief and rage that had consumed me for weeks had crystallized into something colder, sharper purpose. We walked up the driveway in formation. Me in front, Carolyn and Ricardo flanking me like an honor guard, or maybe an execution squad. I inserted my key into the front door lock, turned it slowly. This would probably be the last time I'd use this key as a husband and father. Next time I'd be entering as the sole owner of a property being vacated by former occupants. The door swung open. The familiar scent of Melissa's lavender diffuser hit me immediately, mixed with something cooking in the kitchen. The television was on in the living room, volume low, playing some Friday evening sitcom. Melissa and Austin sat together on the sectional couch we'd bought from Ashley Furniture 3 years ago. She was in her usual spot on the left side, legs curled under her. Austin sprawled on the right, phone in hand as always. A normal Friday evening, casual, comfortable, domestic. Melissa looked up first. Her expression shifted instantly from relaxed to confused when she saw me. Then her eyes registered Carolyn in her professional gray suit. Then Ricardo in his official process server uniform with the Maricopa County seal visible on his badge. She stood immediately, smoothing down her sweater with nervous hands. "Thomas, you're home early. Who are these people?" Her voice had that forced lightness people use when they're trying to pretend everything is fine, while their instincts are screaming danger. Her eyes kept darting to Ricardo's uniform, to the manila envelopes in his hands. Back to my face, searching for explanation. Fear was creeping across her features, now replacing the confusion. Good. She should be afraid. I kept my voice neutral, professional, detached. Melissa Thornton, Austin Thornton. This is attorney Carolyn Spencer from Spencer and Associates Family Law, and Officer Ricardo Navarro from Maricopa County Court. They have legal documents for both of you. Ricardo stepped forward with practiced efficiency. He'd done this thousands of times. Delivered papers that destroyed marriages, ended relationships, shattered families. Just another Friday evening service for him. He extended the first envelope toward Melissa. Mrs. Melissa Thornton, you are hereby served with a petition for dissolution of marriage filed in Maricopa County Superior Court. Grounds adultery with comprehensive documentary evidence. Melissa's hands trembled violently as she took the envelope. It nearly slipped from her fingers. Thomas, what is this? This can't be. We can talk about this. Whatever you think happened, we can work through it. 26 years of marriage doesn't just... I pulled out my phone, opened Vigil Pro, selected the audio clip I'd prepared specifically for this moment, hit play. Melissa's own voice filled the living room crystal clear through my phone's speaker. The audio quality was perfect, every word unmistakable. At least he pays all the bills while Doug and I have our fun. Gregory gives me attention, passion, excitement, things Thomas never could. He's married his job. I barely see him even when he's home. The color drained from Melissa's face like someone had opened a valve. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. She looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Pure animal terror, mixed with the horrified realization that she'd been caught completely. Austin had stood up from the couch. "Dad, what the hell is going on?" "Why are you—" "Sit down, Austin." My voice came out harder than I'd intended, colder, the tone of a man who'd run out of patience for lies. Something in my expression made him sit back down immediately. His phone clattered onto the coffee table. Ricardo turned to Austin, extending the second envelope. "Mr. Austin Thornton, you are hereby served with a declaration of disinheritance filed under Arizona Revised Statute Section 14-2804. Legal grounds: conspiracy to commit fraud, accepting financial compensation for concealing material information, and willful deception for monetary gain." Austin took the envelope with shaking hands, staring at it like it might explode. Disinheritance. What is that even, Dad? "I'm sorry. Whatever I did, I can fix it. I can pay back the money. I'll get a real job. Just tell me what you want me to." I cut him off with a sharp gesture. "Don't call me Dad." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the television seemed to quiet, though I knew that was just my perception. Time had slowed down, crystallized around this moment. "You lost that right when you accepted $750 monthly to keep me blind to what was happening in my own house." Melissa collapsed back onto the couch, her legs giving out. Sobs started racking her body. "Thomas, please, I'm begging you. 26 years. We have a history. We can go to marriage counseling. I'll do anything. We can fix this. Please don't throw away everything we built together." I looked down at her, feeling nothing but cold detachment. Let's be accurate about that timeline, Melissa. 26 years since you deliberately trapped me into raising another man's child. I pulled the Gene Test Lab's report from my jacket pocket, unfolded it, threw it onto the coffee table where it landed between them with a soft thud that somehow seemed louder than it should have been. Gene Test Labs. Official paternity analysis, probability of paternity, 0.00%. Conclusion: Austin Thornton is not the biological child of Thomas Thornton. Excluded as biological father with complete certainty, Austin grabbed the report with trembling hands. His eyes scanned the document, frantically reading the same lines over and over, like the words might change if he looked hard enough. "What are you saying? This doesn't make sense. You're my father. You've always been my Chuck. Your biological father is Gregory Donovan. DNA confirmed. Your mother was 12 weeks pregnant with you in September 1997. She then deliberately selected me at a coffee shop in Tempe to play the role of father for 26 years while your real father pursued his career." I pulled out my phone again, opened the scanned emails Derek Sullivan had recovered, started reading Melissa's own words from October 1997 in a flat, emotionless voice. "There's this guy, Thomas Thornton, I met last week. 25 junior engineer at Cortex, stable job, seems really sweet and kind of naive. Perfect candidate. I can make this work. Give me 2 more months and he'll propose." Austin turned slowly to Melissa, his face a mask of shock and betrayal. "Mom, is this real? Tell me this isn't real." Melissa just sobbed into her hands, her shoulders shaking. That was answer enough. Carolyn Spencer stepped forward, her voice professional and clinical. "Mrs. Thornton, my client is filing civil lawsuits for paternity fraud under Arizona law. Calculated damages include $500,000 for child-rearing costs over 26 years, plus $150,000 for intentional infliction of emotional distress. Total restitution, $650,000. Melissa's head snapped up. I don't have that kind of money. That's impossible. I can't. The court will establish a payment plan based on your income. Additionally, asset division in the divorce, Mr. Thornton will receive 75% of all marital assets per Arizona president in adultery cases with documentary evidence. This house will become his sole property. You'll receive approximately $80,000. Zero spousal maintenance will be awarded. Carolyn turned to Austin. You have been formally removed from your father's last will and testament, removed as beneficiary from his life insurance policy valued at $425,000 and legally disinherited under Arizona statute. You have no claim to any inheritance assets or future estate. Ricardo spoke again, consulting his clipboard. You have 72 hours to vacate these premises. Deadline 6 M. Monday, March 4th, 2024. Personal belongings only. Furniture and household items remain as marital property awarded to Mr. Thornton. Failure to comply will result in law enforcement involvement and formal eviction proceedings. Austin looked at me, his face crumbling. The man I'd raised for 26 years, taught to ride a bike, coached in Little League, helped with homework, loved as my son. Dad Thomas, I need to know something. Did you ever really love me? Was any of it real? I looked at him for a long moment, studied the face I'd watched grow from infant to man, remembered 1,000 moments. Birthdays, Christmases, graduations, quiet nights, watching baseball together. I loved the son I thought I had. I said quietly, that love was completely real. Every moment of it. But you, the man who accepted payment to betray me, who shook hands with Gregory Donovan and negotiated rates for keeping me in the dark, I don't know who you are. I turned toward the door, stopped with my hand on the frame. Gregory Donovan was terminated from core construction at 4:47 this afternoon. He lost $485,000 in accumulated bonuses. His wife, Nancy, received complete documentation of his 26-year conspiracy. She filed for divorce this morning. Your plan failed, Melissa. 26 years of lies collapsed in 1 week. You'll spend the next 17 years paying me back every penny. I walked out at 7:34 p.m. Carolyn and Navarro followed close behind. Behind me, Melissa's sobs echoed through the house. Austin sat in silence. I didn't look back. Some doors once closed should stay closed forever. Tuesday, May 14th, 2024. 3:15 in the afternoon. The blueprints for the Valencia Commercial District project lay spread across my desk like a map to somewhere I couldn't quite reach. Load calculations, material specifications, timeline projections. The numbers swam together in an incomprehensible blur. My eyes tracked across the technical drawings, but my mind wandered somewhere far beyond these walls. Regional Director. The title still felt strange on my business cards. Annual salary of $142,000. 3 experienced engineers reported directly to me now, waiting for my approval on specifications and project timelines. My corner office on the 8th floor offered an unobstructed view of downtown Phoenix, stretching toward the distant mountains, where the late afternoon sun transformed the desert landscape into shades of burnt amber and deep rust. 2.5 months had elapsed since the confrontation that shattered everything. By any objective measure, I should have felt triumphant, victorious, vindicated. Judge Martinez had finalized the divorce on April 3rd after reviewing my evidence for exactly 43 minutes. I'd watched the clock on the courtroom wall tick through every second while she examined the videos, the DNA analysis from gene test labs, Derek Sullivan's comprehensive investigation report, and those devastating emails from 1997. 43 minutes to legally dismantle 26 years of calculated deception. when she'd announced her ruling 75% asset division in my favor, zero spousal maintenance, full restitution for paternity fraud. Melissa had collapsed in her chair. Her attorney had steadied her while Carolyn Spencer squeezed my shoulder in quiet congratulation. Gregory Donovan's destruction had been swift and absolute. Security had escorted him from Cortex Building on March 1st at 4:47 p.m., and he'd forfeited $485,000 in accumulated bonuses under the termination for cause clause. His wife Nancy had filed for divorce just 2 days later. By mid-April, the settlement gave her their $2 million house in North Scottsdale, their $850,000 vacation condo in Sedona, and 80% of their joint investment portfolio. Now, Gregory rented a cramped apartment in Mesa for $1,400 monthly, while unemployment stretched into its 10th week. The construction industry had quietly blacklisted him. Word traveled fast about ethical violations of that magnitude. During his deposition in April, his attorney had asked about acknowledging Austin as his biological son. Gregory had stared at the table and said flatly, "Too late for that now. 26 years too late." Even his own son meant nothing to him. Melissa had moved into a one-bedroom apartment in Tempe immediately after the 72-hour eviction deadline expired. Rent consumed $1,350 monthly. She'd found work within 2 weeks as an administrative assistant at Southwest Logistics Incorporated, earning $1,650 before taxes. But the court ordered restitution, crushed any hope of financial stability, $2,500 monthly for the next 17 years. The mathematics were brutal and unforgiving. Rent plus restitution equaled $3,850 in fixed monthly obligations against $1,650 in income. She'd taken a second job at Target working retail evenings and weekends, adding another $800 monthly. That left her roughly $100 for food, utilities, transportation, and everything else life required. Austin had effectively vanished from my world. He drove for DoorDash, now pulling in approximately $1,400 monthly, and shared a 4-person rental in Tolleson, where his portion was $475. The court had sentenced him to 200 hours of community service for conspiracy to defraud. He'd attempted contact 47 times. I'd counted before blocking his number permanently. Phone calls that went to voicemail. Text messages I deleted unread. Emails filtered directly to trash. Austin had lost both fathers in the span of a single week. The man who'd raised him for 26 years now refused to acknowledge him as a son, while the man who'd actually sired him refused to accept his existence at all. My promotion had included a $175,000 compensation bonus Cortex corporate apology for what Gregory had orchestrated under their authority. Combined with the house now valued at $780,000, and completely paid off my 75% share of our joint investments, worth $240,000, and the $135,000 I'd secured in my personal account before filing my financial position, was unquestionably solid. But financial security couldn't fill the silence of a 4-bedroom house that echoed with absence. Sundays stretched endlessly vast and empty as the Sonora and desert itself. My brother Matthew visited every Tuesday evening, and we'd watch the Suns play or simply sit together without speaking that comfortable silence between people who understood each other, without needing words in my desk drawer tucked beneath quarterly reports and project specifications. I kept USB drive number 1. Some nights when insomnia claimed me, I'd pull it out and hold it feeling its minimal weight in my palm. I never plugged it into anything anymore. Never watched those recordings again. But this small rectangle of plastic and circuitry represented the exact moment everything transformed. The moment I'd stopped being the perfect fool and started documenting reality instead of believing comfortable lies. Last month, I'd hired a landscaping company to remove the cherry tree from the backyard. I'd planted it in spring of 2000, when Austin turned 2, believing I was planting something for my son's future. The landscaper had asked if I wanted to keep the wood for firewood or crafts. I told him no. Some roots run too deep to salvage, better to remove them entirely and let the ground heal. This morning, I'd met with Janet Morrison, the real estate agent Matthew had recommended. The house would be listed next week. I'd already found a 2-bedroom condominium in downtown Tempe, 1,400 square feet, with a rooftop terrace offering city views, listed at $485,000. The paperwork would close in 3 weeks, and then this chapter would truly end. At 11 o'clock, I'd stopped at Cartel Coffee Lab for my usual Americano. While waiting for my order, a woman approximately 45 years old with genuinely kind eyes and a Diamondbacks baseball cap had initiated conversation about the unseasonably cool weather Phoenix was experiencing. We'd talked for perhaps 5 minutes about nothing particularly meaningful weather baseball. The traffic on Mill Avenue. Normal human conversation, normal social connection. When I'd walked back to my truck, I'd suddenly realized that was the first time in months I'd spoken with someone new, without feeling the crushing weight of my story pressing down on every single word. Now watching the sun descend toward the Estrella Mountains through my office window, I contemplated what justice actually cost when you pursued it to its conclusion. The price wasn't merely what you extracted from those who'd wronged you, the money, the assets, the public humiliation. The real cost was what you inevitably lost in the process of claiming that justice. 26 years of marriage dissolved. A son I genuinely loved, now legally disinherited. Friends who couldn't handle the wreckage and had quietly distanced themselves. The natural ability to trust another person easily, without that voice of suspicion, always questioning motives. But as the Phoenix sky deepened from golden afternoon to crimson evening, I understood something fundamental. My worth as a human being wasn't determined by what Melissa and Gregory had done to me, their deception, their conspiracy, their 26 years of calculated lies. My worth was determined entirely by what I chose to do next, how I treated myself going forward, how I rebuilt from these ruins, whether I allowed their betrayal to define the remainder of my life, or whether I reclaimed my narrative. Tomorrow, I'd meet Janet to finalize the listing agreement and put the house on the market. Tomorrow evening, Matthew and I had tickets to watch the Suns play at Footprint Center. Next month, I'd move into that downtown condo and genuinely start over in a space that held absolutely no ghosts, no poisoned memories, just the clean possibility of something honest and new. Justice had cost me everything I'd believed I possessed. But simultaneously, it had returned something I'd lost without even realizing it was gone. My integrity, my fundamental self-respect, the certain knowledge that I would never again allow anyone to make a fool of me. The desert sunset burned spectacular colors across the entire valley, and for the first time in 2.5 months, I felt something that wasn't anger or grief or that terrible numbness. I felt ready for whatever came next. And to you listening to this story, remember this. I'm Thomas Thornton, and I'm speaking to you now, not as the man who won his legal battles, but as someone who lost 26 years living a carefully constructed lie. Let me share the lessons this family story burned into my soul. Lessons I pray you'll absorb without having to endure what I did. God gave each of us intuition for a sacred reason. That quiet voice warning us when something feels wrong. I ignored mine for far too long. When Frank Wilson stood in my driveway on February 12th, trying to warn me God was speaking through a concerned neighbor, and I almost dismissed it. Don't make my mistake. When that inner voice whispers that something's wrong, when the pattern doesn't quite fit, when your gut tells you to look closer, listen immediately. This family story taught me that love without honesty isn't love at all. It's exploitation disguised as devotion. Melissa and Gregory didn't just betray me. They engineered an entire architecture of deception, using my life as the foundation. I gave them everything. My time, my money, my identity as a father, while they treated me as a resource to extract from. For 26 years, I was the perfect fool, the reliable provider, the man who never questioned because he trusted completely. Don't be like me. Don't wait 2.5 months after hearing the first warning to install those cameras. Don't spend 26 years building your life on blind trust without any verification. I'm not saying become paranoid or cynical, but I am saying this: trust, but document. Verify what you're told. Watch for patterns in behavior. When someone shows you who they are through their actions, believe them the first time, not the hunt. The response I chose, what some might call excessive and others might call proportional, wasn't rooted in cruelty. It was about accountability. When someone steals 26 years of your existence, $599,000 of your earnings, and your entire identity as a father, justice cannot afford to be gentle. Consequences must match the magnitude of the crime. That's not hatred speaking. That's necessity. My response cost me everything I thought I possessed, but it returned something infinitely more valuable: my self-respect. Guard your family story with fierce protectiveness. Once it's poisoned with fundamental lies, the only antidote is scorched earth. And nobody emerges from that fire unburned. Not the betrayers, and not you either. I live now in a 4-bedroom house that echoes with absence. Financial security can't fill that silence. Legal victory can't restore what was stolen. God gives us the capacity for both trust and wisdom. I leaned too heavily on trust and neglected wisdom entirely. The balance between those two virtues, that's where protection lives. I should have verified Austin's paternity when he was born. I should have questioned why Melissa pushed so hard for a rushed wedding. I should have wondered why Gregory always seemed to know exactly when to send me on business trips. Looking back across this grandpa story's kind of nightmare, because that's what this feels like. Some cautionary tale an old man tells to warn the young. I see 100 moments where I could have chosen differently. 100 small decisions that accumulated into 26 years of deception. Each time I chose blind trust over careful verification, I handed them more power to exploit me. Here's my central message to you. Verify everything that matters. Bank accounts, paternity, faithfulness, loyalty. These aren't things you take on faith alone when the stakes are your entire life. That's not cynicism. That's wisdom purchased at tremendous cost. I paid $599,000 in 26 years to learn this lesson. You can learn it right now for free. This grandpa story's cautionary tale, this family story of systematic betrayal, ends with me starting over at 52 years old. I'm rebuilding in a downtown Tempe condo with no ghosts, no poisoned memories, just the possibility of something honest ahead. The desert sunset still burns beautiful across this valley, and I'm finally ready to trust myself again, even if trusting others will take considerably longer. So, I'm genuinely asking you, leave a comment below sharing your perspective. How would you handle this kind of calculated, systematic deception? What would your response be? I read every single comment, and your insights genuinely matter to me. If this grandpa story's narrative about accountability and justice resonated with you, if it shifted how you think about trust in relationships, I'd be deeply honored if you'd subscribe to this channel. There are more thought-provoking stories coming. more lessons learned the hard way, more wisdom earned through pain. Thank you sincerely for staying with me through this emotionally charged journey all the way to the end. Your time and attention mean everything. Before you continue to the next story, I need to be transparent with you. The narratives you'll encounter here draw from genuine relationship dynamics and established legal frameworks, but certain elements have been dramatized for educational impact. These are constructed stories designed to illuminate difficult truths about trust, betrayal, and consequences. If this storytelling approach doesn't align with your preferences, I completely understand. Feel free to explore other content that might connect with you better. But if you're ready for more unflinching examinations of what happens when families fracture, when trust shatters, when justice demands its price, then stay with me. The next chapter awaits.